Welcome to Advice Patreon asked for. After a decade of watching me tear people apart for sending questions to advice columnists, people said, "Man, I wish Buckley would treat me like that." Listen, I get it. Sometimes we all just want to be subs. And I don't mean subscribers. A couple longer questions today, so let's get to the first one. A young lady having some neighbor troubles. Dear guy from YouTube, my boyfriend and I have a 1-year-old toddler that occasionally wakes up at night to be fed or changed. Unfortunately, due to financial reasons, we live in a duplex, which we don't mind. Our neighbor clearly does. Let's call her Karen. She yells at us and our child when he cries, and has even called the cops in the middle of the day for him making noise while playing. Karen will bang on walls, tell her dogs to bark, and even says racist things to my boyfriend. She thinks he's Mexican, and has made it known how much she hates them. She is crazy, and has accused us with tampering and committing arson due to things on her side not working. She has gone as far as turning our furnace and hot water off in the middle of the night with snow outside. She has posted online in town groups we are in, claiming we are child abusers as well. Our landlord took her to court over the complaints, but lost the cause today due to some sob story Karen came up with. It's a constant occurrence, and once the baby is scared from her yelling and pounding, he's up for the night, and I don't get sleep. The second we fix the sleep schedule, she does it again. We can't move until I get my PR, and are at a loss. What should we do? Signed, let's call her Sleepless in Saskatoon. This is a tough one for me because my initial reaction is to side with Karen. God, do I hate children. I've lived in apartment buildings with people who have crying, screaming babies. You ever been to a restaurant and a child does that high-pitched shriek? You've all heard it. That one that ripples through you from your fucking ears straight down your spine and then back up your asshole, and your whole body clenches and you just want to tell the waitress, toss that in the deep fryer. That's what I'm eating tonight. And give me the fucking parents for dessert. It's one of the worst sounds in the world, like a dentist drill being used on a cat. I've been to the theater when people brought very small children that start crying mid-movie. I'm making up this stat right now, but at least 12 outings in your life will be ruined by someone else's child. There should be a law that says people should have to keep their children in soundproof booths within their houses until they're like 10, and then ship them off to the coal mines. But enough about my utopia. Living in a shared space with a stranger isn't always ideal, but it's an incredibly common living situation between apartment buildings, duplexes, townhouses, even just having a roommate. You're going to share a wall with another person at some point in your life, and there's a bit of a give and take. Now, what you don't do is say, call the police because a baby is crying or playing. How much noise could a baby make while playing? Or turn off utilities, which she shouldn't even have access to. That sounds like something your landlord should be dealing with for sure, putting that behind a locked access panel or something. And the slander or libel, if she's going online in groups and using your names or photos and making claims about you being abusers, that's something you can actually sue for if you were so inclined to do so. And you mentioned she has dogs, so there's a real pot calling the kettle black situation, because I also don't believe people in shared living spaces should have dogs. They're just as bad. Something spooks them in the middle of the night, or they see a bird fly by a window, or someone knocks on the door, and it's fucking bark, bark, bark. Basically, I hate any noise I'm not making. My advice is to go talk to her and say, listen, we both gotta live here. We're doing our best with the baby, but it's a baby. They're gonna cry. And you know what? They'll cry even more if they're freezing cold because you turned off the furnace. Or if you're pounding on a wall. Do you think we can't hear the baby? Like, are you trying to wake us up to tell the baby to stop crying? 'Cause we're up. We know he's crying. We don't want him to cry either. We're trying to stop it, and you're just making it worse. I would also try and have the baby sleep in the furthest possible place away from any shared wall, so that the sound has further to travel and hopefully has to go through more walls, which should help. And if none of that works, tell her if she doesn't fucking stop, then play to her racism. Tell her your Mexican boyfriend is going to have his entire family move in, all 30 of them, and it's going to be like Cinco de Mayo every goddamn day of the week. Our second question is from a young man who can't decide what to do with his life. Hiya, Buckley. I am a 25-year-old college student. I finished an associate's in brewing science, decided not to be a brewer, and came back to college to study biochemistry. I'm about to finish my sophomore year in a couple weeks. Including the brewing program, I've been in school full-time for 4 years, including summers. I find chemistry fascinating, but I'm so burnt out, I'm having a hard time giving a fuck right now. I feel like every day is slogging through the required homework so I can read or play Animal Crossing. I find it hard to focus in class, and my emotions have been increasingly unstable. It's not for a lack of understanding, though. I have a 4.0 and have a good feel for what has been presented thus far. I've considered changing my major to a social science, a longtime passion of mine, but I'm scared of starting over in school at my age. Also, I'm afraid to switch from a STEM field to a field that generally has low rates of employment and success on the research side of things. I've gotten advice to change my major, and I've gotten advice to just stick it out and finish what I've started. Is this kind of intense burnout normal for a sophomore, or is it a sign I should study something else? How do I figure out what to do so I don't keep spending money and time on all this? They called themselves Burnt Biochemist in Bozeman. There's something to be said about sticking with something that there's an actual demand for versus choosing to do something you're passionate about that no one's hiring for. The world needs another art history major like an alcoholic needs another drink. As someone who went back to school at the age of 26, I can understand being concerned about starting over. It's a frightening prospect, especially in a society where everyone's supposed to be on a timeline. You're supposed to graduate by a certain age, then have a family by a certain age, own your own house by a certain age, so on and so forth. On top of that, college is expensive. Being a career student is the one career that you just keep going into debt for. Having gone to school at 26 again with some idea of what I actually wanted to do, and being there with 18-year-olds who had no idea what they wanted to do, I've come to the conclusion that no one should be even able to start college until they've spent like 5 years working. How that would work, I have no idea, because every job these days wants entry-level employees with at least 2 years experience and 4 years of college, and they want to pay you minimum wage for it. But I don't think anyone's truly emotionally ready to decide what they want to do for the rest of their lives at the age of 18. Hell, you said you first went to school to become a brewer. Can I guess that's because you were basically a kid and you were like, I like beer, I should make beer? Which is effectively what happened to me when I went to school at the age of 18 to become a computer programmer because I liked video games. But then I found out I fucking sucked at programming. But as for your question, is this kind of intense burnout normal for a sophomore? Probably not, except you're not a sophomore. You said yourself you've been in school now for 4 years, including summers. If that's true, that's 12 semesters of school back to back, the equivalent of 6 years of school with no break. You need a fucking vacation. You need 4 months off to just go, what do I really want to do with my life? Find a job you know you'll hate, but that you don't have to take anything home with you, something that you clock in and out of, and just do that for a semester. Hell, maybe 2 semesters. They don't take those credits that you've already earned away from you. Now, you might think, yeah, but then I'll be 26 and not know what I want to do with my life. Ready for the reality of the world? People are 30, 35, fucking 40, and don't really know if the thing they're doing with their life is the thing that they should be doing with it. No one knows. You just pick something you're kind of good at and do it. And you may have heard the term, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, which isn't true at all. You just made the thing you love into work, and there are going to be days where that stresses you out too. And then you need to find new things you love to escape the stress of that. People who love to work on cars don't become mechanics and then come home in their off hours and unwind by fixing their neighbors' cars for free. As the French dude said in The Matrix Reloaded, if we don't ever take time, how can we ever have time? Take some time off, fuck around a bit, or maybe see if you can get an internship at an actual biochemistry lab. See if you like the lifestyle that awaits you once you're done all the boring-ass school shit. If you're really lucky, maybe you'll come into contact with some dangerous substance that winds up giving you superpowers. Or if you're really unlucky, it'll give you a terminal illness. Either one would mean that you don't have to go to school anymore. I'm Buckley, and you're welcome.